Well, welcome back to the number one podcast in Australia, Old Bull Young Buck. We've come to you from Coburn, Gold Coast, South Yarra. Now we're from Carlton. My name is David Mundy, and with me as ever is my great mate, the undersized key defender, Griffin Logue. How are you, mate?
Hi, Dave. How you going, mate? Bit cold down here.
Yeah, do you want to explain our setup for this week's pod?
So I'll set the scene for you. We're in your manager's cellar in his office.
Anthony
his wine cellar.
McConville's,
Anthony
Mac Sports,
McConville's,
yeah.
Mac Promotions. So thanks to them for putting that on. Very topical as well, as we could get in the ear of the big fella upstairs about possible 5 to 10 year extension for you if you're still in the market for it.
At a minimum, I would have thought. Yeah.
The pod must go on, mate. So it'd be nice if you could sort that out. But yeah, as you said, we're here in Carlton. It's pretty cold as well, as I mentioned again in this cellar. So how you going, mate? How are you?
Yeah, going well. Really enjoying our time in Melbourne. We had we filmed with Big Alex the Bone Man Moose Pierce last
Bone
week.
broth, yeah.
How'd you find that chat?
It's funny. Yeah, bone broth's probably the biggest one that stuck with me because I've smelt it and had to deal with that. So it's pretty gross, but you got to do what you got to do.
If offered, would you drink some of his bone broth?
No, it had to take a lot of money.
He's very meticulous with his recipe, though. I thought he had that down pat.
Yeah,
he obviously
I think he's
invested heavily in it.
That is one thing. He's meticulous, big moose. Same with his cooking, everything. So he's good at it. I thought he was good though.
He was a great guest. I'd love to see, once we get back to Optus with fans, I'd love to see a big Bone Man sign or something. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It's just weird. He's a weird man, but...
and on the back of a lot of our discussions in our pod this year, there's been social outcry for one of our favourites, Matt Taberner.
Yeah, the fans are asking for him. They asked for big swaggy onions, but and they got him, so maybe we'll have to keep knocking down the door.
So you live with Tabs. What do you think our chances of getting him on are?
Oh, slim. Very slim. He's a pretty hard man to reach at the best of times, let alone on a podcast. So we'd have to give him some form of incentive, maybe some choc milk, Rockabies. So he loves them. Anyway, enough of that, of what could be. We're sitting in presence of a great man, a funny man, good coach as well, so he claims. And without further ado, welcome Josh Carr. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Joshy,
Pleasure.
Before we crack in, can I just confirm, has match committee for this week happened yet?
No, it hasn't.
Oh, okay. So don't ask those questions.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. How you going, mate? How's you enjoying Melbourne? It's going
good.
Going well.
Feeling obviously very lucky to be invited onto this this podcast.
As you should, mate. It's good. Yeah, you'll be the first non-staff, non-player aside from Desi. So yeah, actually, it's a pretty big step for
big honour.
Yeah.
Big honour.
You're high on our list right from the start, mate. So it's great to knuckle you right down, and we're able to raise the money to.
I didn't influence
pay
you in any way, and so that you need to get me on.
No, couldn't do that, mate. So, but we put you ahead a lot of players. So I reckon it's you should feel privileged. So just make sure you do a good job and
don't worry.
And go from there. Yep. Anyway, we'll get started. So not right to mention you without mentioning your brother. I've got a brother myself. Mm-hmm. So what's it like growing up with a brother and end up playing in the AFL with him? It's probably a dream that you kind of end up doing. So was it fun?
Yeah, well, we grew up in the country in a place called Gamelling, and all we ever did as young kids is play in the backyard and fight and do what brothers do. And then obviously lucky to he got drafted and look up to him and seeing him play AFL football, and I moved to Adelaide, and then obviously to play together in the end was something that we'd, I guess, always aspired to, and it was good fun. Loved it. It's a long time ago, but I loved every moment of it.
What's the age gap between you?
A couple of years.
Yeah.
Did you win any of those fights? Great.
Never.
Not once?
I was always like, you might not think this, but I was always quite nice. I was always scared to hit him, and one reason for that is I knew what was coming back. So I still remember as a young kid, I think mum and dad for some reason had gone out and left the babysitting duties to Matthew. I think he was about 14, 15.
Yeah.
I would have been 12, 13, around there. And I ended up in mum and dad's wardrobe in a corner with him with a tennis racket, belting the absolute hell out of me. So
something about older brothers where they never know when to stop.
Well, they just don't want to let up. I think.
I think that's what it is. It's like a sign of dominance. My older brother could never kind of show any sign of weakness. Would never stop. Would always go to the next level, and I'd kind of be sitting there obviously always instigating it a little bit, but
Yeah, I was going to say, clearly didn't
But
deserve
they never-
any of this treatment.
but they never stop, and I just feel like absolute nut jobs. All the brothers they have to be just nutcases, but
Well, I can look back at it and think I was pretty annoying, no doubt about it.
you just wanted to get along though.
I always wanted to hang around him as
Yeah.
well, and he hated that. He just
It's always
wanted-
cool.
wanted
It's
to
cool
get
hanging
around.
out with the older brother.
Yeah,
That's
it.
but you're always in a lot of argy-bargy as well. So obviously fought with each other a lot. Argy-bargy, lots of kind of bashings, you'd almost say, throughout the your years playing together. Did you always were you aggressive younger as a group, as a pair together?
Yeah, yes and no. You know, like as I said, we'd have a fight nearly every day. I reckon, without doubt, every day there'd be a fight between me and him. That Mum would have to separate. Usually the bucket of water or something would come out, and Mum would throw it over top of us to separate us. And I was pretty annoying, but
Dogs.
obviously,
That's what you do for dogs when you,
I know.
Good eyes on them.
I know.
they get the feeling they're drowning. So
It wasn't good. I had a few wooden spoons broken on me and things like that. So it flowed into our football, I guess, when we were playing together, and we'd look after each other.
What was the feeling like when you were playing together? If somebody was getting into Matt, what would your reaction and mental state be like?
Oh, I don't know.
I have to go and help him. Or?
Not necessarily. I think it was how I felt with all my teammates.
Yeah.
To be honest, and he was obviously a brother, but I probably saw my other teammates in the same situation and would look after each other, and always found it a bit of fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Would you kind of have a chat? Because generally, if you were going to get into someone, this is to your playing days, would you have a chat pre-game almost like, right, like, say if you're going to match up on Dave or something, you'd be like, let's get into this fossil.
Yeah, I think there's just a quiet understanding.
You just kind of know.
That, like I premeditated a fair bit in my own head. I wouldn't tell any of my teammates or my coaches about it. I'd just go out there and do it,
no choice
and just
as well.
have expectations that they come and join me. And that didn't always happen.
Premeditation's a bit spooky. You must have enjoyed a few. Are there any good memories of ones?
Oh, I had a couple of funny ones my first final series at Port, 2001, a long time ago. We played,
About
I think,
20
Brisbane
years.
up in Brisbane. We lost, and then playing Hawthorn to win our first final at Port. We hadn't never won a final, and we're playing Hawthorn. We finished third. I reckon Hawks must have finished fourth that year. And playing Hawthorn, playing against Shane Crawford, going in the game and thinking, I'm just going to go out there and I'm just going to try and smash him. I'm going to do everything I can to get into him. And I got a fair wake-up call. I reckon it was in the first 5 minutes.
They knew you were coming, didn't they?
They knew probably I was coming, definitely. I reckon Crawford had kicked me, put me on the ground. He chased our runner down and kicked him as well. Yeah, David Arnfield, who was just on the lip all the time. And then I had pretty much the whole Hawthorn team belt the absolute hell out of me for the whole game, and we lost. And it was a pretty big lesson. I remember I went and shake one of the players' hands. I won't put him in because I actually coached with him as well after the game, and he said to me, he asked me where my mouth was. He said, "Where's your mouth now, you little so-and-so?" So that was my, that's what I was. Yeah, I was pretty ruthless in my first, probably a few years of playing. It didn't really stop, but the longer you played, I guess the more players that you got to know, which made sometimes, being like I was a little bit harder. But I was probably the most hated player in the competition there for a fair while, which didn't worry me at the time.
Thank God for Ryan Crowley, hey?
That's it. Taught him everything.
Were you much of a? You mentioned where's your lip now and mouth now. Were you much of a talker out there? Pretty quick-witted, you reckon?
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of, obviously you see the actions of kind of getting into someone and bashing them almost, but the best stuff is the kind of the lip.
I was a pretty confident kid.
Yeah.
Coming through for no reason at all. I think I didn't play any games in my first year. When I played. So when the opportunity came up to, I guess, run with players and tag, I wanted to play AFL that badly that it didn't really worry me what I did.
Yeah.
We were playing a pre-season game. Well, the first thing going into my second year after not playing a game, the recruiting officer told me I got to go to Choco and say I want to play Nathan Buckley in the pre-season and tag him. I was like, I'm not sure if I can do that, but I'll do it anyway. And so I'm at training, I walk up to Choco, and most people sort of know what Choco's like. I walked up to Choco, I said, "Hey, Choc, can I have a chat?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, okay." And Choco wasn't really liking me at that stage. And I said, "Choco, first practice game, I think pre-season game, I think it was NAB Cup or something like that. I want to play Nathan Buckley. I want to tag him. And Choco looked at me and started laughing. He literally started laughing, and he said, he goes, you might want to get picked first, and then just walked off. And there was a bit more swear words involved in that, and he just walked off and left me standing in that same spot. And so I was looking and going, oh my God, that didn't go well. And I played in that game, didn't tag Nathan Buckley.
Did you go to Bucks or?
No, didn't go anywhere near him. And then the next game against Carlton, I still remember I went out and I was playing Camperelli. And Scott Camperelli, and all the Carlton guys were like, who's this absolute, F-wit playing on me? And they said, who are you, mate? And I still remember, I said to them, read the paper tomorrow morning, read the best players and you'll see me in there.
What are you, 18, 19?
That was also the Carlton team won a flag like 3 or 4 years ago. Absolute stars, Ratton, Bradley, all these guys in there, and they got this young punk who's never played a game saying this stuff. So, as I said, I had a fair bit to say as a young guy.
Love that.
Oh, that's good.
The original Bash Brothers, you and Matty, the Purple Rain podcast guys have rebranded that to current day Licky Ryan and Brendan Cox. I feel that's a mantle worth passing on, or they've got a bit of work to do?
I reckon they've got a bit of work to do, especially on field. There's no doubt about it. And we got that name, I think, from obviously the Western Derby days, which was pretty enjoyable to play in those games. But yeah, I reckon Coxie and Luke got a bit of work to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of the Bash Brothers, you and your brother did spark one of the great Dennis Committee lines. We'll let you just react to the photo and see what you reckon. But how's that? A 2-car collision with the same rego. Tell us a bit about that. So that was
Port versus Fremantle.
Yeah, Port versus Freo, both wearing number 9.
Yeah.
Did you play on each other or?
No, because I reckon Matthew was probably doing the same role as what I was doing at Port at the time. He was running with the opposition best players. Early days when we were playing against each other, when Matthew was at St Kilda, all we hoped for each other that we both played well. I reckon it was about my 3rd or 4th game. Played St Kilda at Marvel. And Matthew was playing for St Kilda and he's having a bit of a hard time of playing in and out of the side, and I had just come in the side, and I remember Matthew was getting a kick and I'm giving a little celebration when he's getting a kick. We're both down the bottom of the ladder, so I think whoever lost that game ended up was last at the time.
Yeah, right.
So I guess there was a bit of selfishness at the time about both of us trying to play well, but we never really lined up against each other.
It's probably good.
Yeah, not a bad result, I reckon. So we'll go have a bit more of a deep dive into your playing career now. You're a young boy from Goomalling, you said, went to Port, to Freo, back to Port, then moved into your coaching, gone from Port to Freo.
Yeah.
Any chance you could just pick one, even just the state, mate?
I know. I keep hopping over the border, and I guess the journey of an AFL player, and especially coaching now, I guess you got to be open to moving anywhere. So I'm really happy, I guess, with where I'm at in my coaching and at Freo with where the list is at. So I don't have any intentions on moving anywhere at the moment.
So you picked 7 in the 98 draft.
Yep.
How was that move initially over the state lines to Adelaide?
Yeah, it was, I think at the time I was at Channel 7 and my name got called out and I went like that because I played the state 18s carnival.
Yep.
And I didn't really like Adelaide at all when we played there. And so...
Same as you and Griff.
Yeah, and I said to Mum the night before the draft, I said, Mum, I got a really bad feeling that I'm going to get picked up by Port Adelaide. And she said, why is that? I said, I don't know. I said, I just got this feeling, and that happened. And I was half an hour after the draft happened, I was wrapped. I just wanted to play AFL football and moved to Adelaide and loved every minute of it. I was there for that 6-year period, had success, and then obviously jumped the border and went for a...
Yeah, nice. So you mentioned that success, the 2004 grand final.
Yep.
Play well that day?
Played okay.
Yep.
Played okay. I had a good first half. I don't know, 9 or 10 possessions and about 30 fights, and then by half time I was pretty spent. I didn't have much left in the tank after half time.
I was going to bring that up next. Do you think you won the fight with John O'Brien that day?
Oh, smashed him. Yeah, smashed him. No, not at all. I got a nice little left hook from him that I had a couple of battle scars after the game.
Yeah, nice. And then coming back to Freo after that year.
Yep.
At the end of 2004.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was was a really tough decision because I think the year before at Port, so in 2003, Nick Stevens, who was a really good player at the time, he left. So there was probably a fair bit of pressure on the club to obviously hold on to their players. I always had a really good relationship with Choco, who was the coach, and I was really honest with him from the start of that year. So going into the 04 year, and I was out of contract, and he got me in the office and sat me down and said, "Look, I don't know what you're thinking or what you got to do, but I just want you to be really honest with me from the start." And I was, and I said to him, I got no idea what I want to do. I said there is a chance that at the end of the year I could want to go home, but I don't really know. So there was those conversations through the year. He made me vice captain in that year for 2004, and I loved every minute. I didn't speak to Freo at all through that whole season. For me, it was about obviously getting the flag, and we'd failed a few times before that. So all my mindset was about winning it, and then in my head, I guess I'd always thought if we won it, then I'd go home. But it wasn't actually that easy because winning it with all your
You almost
mates,
want to go back around again, wouldn't you? It'd be
It
such a
is
tough
bit,
decision.
You know what? There's a bit of that, and Mad Monday. Those decisions. I remember telling a couple of the boys. Chad Corns was sitting next to me on the bus, and he's like, "What are you thinking?" And I was like, "Oh, mate, I don't know. I think I might. I'm leaning towards staying, but I'm not sure." And he stood up and said to the whole bus, he said, "Carr, he's staying." And I was like, "Oh no!"
Oh, no.
Next day we had the parade, and I'm on the back of a ute, pretty hungover at the time. And I had Channel 7, I had everyone in my face, "Oh, you're staying?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've got no idea what I want to do." And then I flew to Perth on the Wednesday to catch up with Freo. And
The rest is history.
yeah, the rest is history, really.
And so you moved over to Freo. How flat were you that Matt didn't give up the number 9?
No, I knew that wasn't happening. My first choice at Port, when I took the number 9, was actually number 2, but obviously it wasn't playing well enough or a good enough player because they gave that to Darryl Wakeland when he came over from St Kilda. So the next one that was available was 9, and I took that. Yeah.
And so you slotted into the number 2 at Fremantle and
Yep.
did that one justice. And you've brought it up a couple of times, but the 2007 Derby dominated both in the game and the fight. That was one of your premeditated wrestles with a few of the West Coast boys.
A little bit. I went out and lined up on Curry, and I'd already had a few good battles with Daniel, and I just hated. I guess you guys know how competitive I am, and I just didn't want to lose. I didn't want to lose that game, and one thing led to another.
And then following on from Matt's retirement, went back to Port Adelaide at the end of 2008.
Yeah. 2008 was a pretty tough year. Halves came on as coach, and look, I really liked him, but I guess at the same time I was struggling with a bit of form early in the year. Matthew was struggling. He retired, I reckon, after about round 3 or 4. And you just have so much, as you guys know, through your careers, you sort of have ups and downs. And I was trying to find that, I guess, motivation to get the best out of myself again. And I guess my relationship with Choco sort of came to fruition in that period because he started. There was a few, I guess, conversations that he was having with Dom Cassisi, who was my best mate, about getting me back. And I guess that just, and I guess the other part in my head, I probably knew that I was probably going to go back to Adelaide at some stage and live there. My wife, now, who was my girlfriend at the time, we'd spoken about post-footy probably going back to Adelaide. So, that opportunity came. I knew where Freo was probably having a bit of a change of the guard with some younger players like yourself coming through. And, I probably just wasn't sure where my future was at that time, and thought if I can try and regain a bit of a spark and go play for Choco and all that sort of stuff, get it going. But it didn't really work out that way. I probably played half the games. He dropped me for the showdown, which I was absolutely spewing about.
Wow.
It was the first time I'd ever been dropped, and it was a showdown, and I'd never lost a showdown. So I just couldn't believe it.
Did they lose?
Yeah, they lost.
Oh.
They lost. And I went into his office on the Monday.
Told
and
you.
I was like, mate. And so,
I told you, mate.
10 zip. I never lost a showdown. Every showdown I played in, I said, well, that's your fault.
Speaking of showdowns, obviously would have been close to your heart, but derbies as well. What's closer to your heart?
Oh, loved them both.
Yeah.
Like there was a hatred for both clubs as much as anything at the time. So I think the rivalry gets bigger when the two teams I reckon, are competing for more. So
Yeah, right.
when both teams are up towards the top of the ladder, then it's pretty big, because there's a nervousness about lining up against each other in a final, but then there's the excitement at the same time. So I never got to play against Adelaide or West Coast in a final, but it's, you know,
It would have been massive, wouldn't it?
I was always thinking, how good would it be? But at the same time, there's just the thought about losing those games would be tough as well.
Yeah. So you stayed on at Port, then went to assistant coach.
Yeah, I had 2 years.
2011.
Yeah, well, I had 2 years at Port, and then
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a break, a tiny break in between. So I had a year off in between.
Carr's gap year.
Yeah, my gap year. I went and worked for a stockbroking firm.
Oh yeah.
Which, you know, I'm never going to be a stockbroker. I think I was too honest, to be honest.
I was sitting with the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah. So I had that year in between, which was really good for me, just to get out of it for a little bit and then work out exactly what your pathway is, which by any means it wasn't definitive that I wanted to be a coach, but the opportunity did come up and it was always sort of in the back of the mind. And I went and started my coaching career at Port. I think Matty Primus was the coach at the time, and it was a really good experience.
Yeah. From there was on to the Sample.
Yeah, so I had 4 years at Port. Ken Hinkley came on after my first year as a coach at Port, and I was lucky to have 3 years under him. His advice to me was always that he thought I should coach my own team at some stage. So I reckon at the end of my first, when he came on board, he threw the Port Magpies job at me and said, you know, what are your thoughts on doing this? And I was a little bit unsure about coaching, I guess, the affiliated team and doing everything that Ken wanted me to do rather than just coach my own side. So I said that to him. I said, look, I'm not sure about it. I think I'll stay on as the mid coach and do that. And then going into end of my last year at Port, he threw the same thing at me for the Port Magpies job and said, you know, I want you to present for it and go through that whole process. And I did. And I thought, well, you know, I might do it. And in some ways, it was like the easy way in coaching. And I thought, oh, you know, I may as well do it. I'll go do it for a couple of years, and you know, third year come back in a line coach again. And then out of nowhere, North Adelaide rang me, and I knew that job was there, but I thought they'd only won one game. I was like, I might be too hard. I don't know if I want to put everything on the line there. And then the CEO rang me out of nowhere, and I literally was about to accept the Port Magpies job like the next day. And I told them, I said, look, I'm going to go talk to North Adelaide. Can you just hold off? And they said, yeah, no worries. I don't think they really thought I'd go take it. I had the conversations, and I thought, I've got to do it. It's something that I think I need to do to work out how much I want to be a coach and find out a little bit about myself as a person.
We loved it about you. You said you're an honest man. So 2018, you ended up winning the flag.
Yeah.
And as an honest man, you said, you know, you tell them, oh, boys, I'll tell you if I'm going to take the job. And you took the job, blah, blah, blah. And you've won the flag, and you've got 19 players on the field.
Not in the grand final, Griff.
Isn't it not on the grand final?
No.
What was it in the prelim?
You got to get your facts right.
Oh, all right.
Adam Rand's told us wrong.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, you've had 19 players on the field for.
I did. Yeah,
some
it was a
final.
prelim final.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was big. We were 47 points down, and that's not why I did it.
That's so snuck another one
So we were
on.
47 points down, halfway through the third quarter. We kicked the last 5 goals of the third quarter, going at 3-quarter time. So there was a fair bit of buzz going around about us coming home and running over top of them. And like one of the players didn't read the board. And both teams. So this was before this, and the reason why the 6-6-6 rule is because of me. So you can thank me for that.
Is that actually true?
I think that had a fair bit to do with it. Yeah, I think they had a fair bit to do with it. So
you start one and
you know, like
spare
at the
back.
time, all clubs, AFL, SNFL, were starting one off the back, and so the whole game, both teams were doing that. So it wasn't as if. So what happened? Yeah, it wasn't if the clubs were really, I guess, picking up on it. It was just like one's off the back, and and then the player that didn't come off, he was starting. He was one of the rucks, and he started deep forward, and I reckon it was about a minute and a half in. My head trainer came to me and said, "Josh, I think we've got 19 men on the ground." I was like, my heart everything just sunk and just dropped. I was like, what are you talking about? And so then the guy that was the closest, our winger, I was like, mate, you know, come off the ground. And he didn't know why, because he never rotates at that time. He was one of our most senior players. And so I got him off the ground. Look, it was really unfortunate, to be honest, because I don't know. You have so many volunteers that are happening, at that level, and there's a couple of mistakes made, and it's not something we meant to do. And the guy was on the ground for about 3.5 minutes, and we did kick a goal in that time. So it's one of those tough ones. Like, it was so exciting and everyone was so happy, but at the same time in that game, it's hard for me to watch because I was so disappointed that happened. But it was nice to go on and win the week after.
Well, a good friend of mine, Lee Spur, once said, "If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying." So, nonetheless, got the result, so that's all that matters. Now moving on, your current role, mids coach at Freo. So we touched on it earlier off air, but you are Dave's boss. That's confirmed. How have you?
I think JL's his boss, but I'm one of his bosses.
Well, you work for JL.
Yeah, that's it.
JL works for Anyway, if so facto, he's your boss. But anyway, how'd you come across that? Did JL give you a call? You're probably close with him, or?
I was in conversations, I guess, with Bally.
Yeah.
I'd had a couple. I think Bally just reached out and wanted to find out where I was at in my coaching and what it looked like. So I had a conversation really early with Bally. I think it was probably around 5 or 6 of the AFL season. I coached the state game, and I coached South Australia, which I was West Australian coaching South Australia against WA, and it was before your game. I think it was your Richmond game during 2019.
Did you win?
We won, yeah. It was first time South Australia had beaten WA in WA since 2001. When Alistair Clarkson was coaching.
You've seen all these records.
I like to
10 zip showdown. You throw that one. You're pretty happy to throw that one into the ring.
Self-promotion. So that was the first conversation that I had with Bally about going to Freo. And what I liked where the list was at. I thought there was some really good young guys coming through. There'd been a fair bit of groundwork, I reckon, in the previous 3 to 4 years with the change of guard and the changeover of players. And I just thought it was a great opportunity, one from a coaching side of it, but also to get home and be around my family with young kids that have got young cousins. And so it was a career move, but the bonus of it was being back at where I've grown up and around family. And then, that was the first conversation, but nothing really happened until the change of coach, and then had to know who the new coach was, and then had to go do an interview with JL and Bally here in Melbourne and catch up with them and JL, because as much as me and JL got along really well as players, and we played state 18s together, we played a lot of junior football together. It's not like we picked up the phone every second week and spoke to each other. We'd cross paths and always got and had a mutual respect there. And we sat down and talked. Jay asked me a lot of questions about my coaching and my philosophies and things like that. And from there, it led to me getting this job.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, he's doing a great job. So
doing great, real good. Yeah. So you mentioned like the look of the list and younger kind of people building it up. But what's it like working with kind of the fossils like Dave and Mundy, the kind of real experienced guys? Do you learn a bit off someone like Dave who's kind of, I don't know, been around for a fair while, or is it kind of is it a good opportunity and exciting for you to kind of work with the polar opposite, someone like Andy Brayshaw or Caleb Strong, real young versus...
Yeah, look, I've learned so much working with Dave and Nathan as well. The experiences that they've had. I'd coach my own side, I'd coach midfield, but I hadn't really coached the specifics of the stoppages and inside and things like that. So there was still a lot of lessons for me to learn. You try and shape things your way, but at the same time, there's things that you guys players know from today's game that can teach us as coaches. So I've always been, pretty receptive of listening to my players. And when you've got a player like Dave who's been in the industry for so long, there is a lot that you can learn from these guys. So I've been really lucky.
Yeah, fair enough. So you mentioned working with the big fella there and working with younger blokes, as I mentioned, Brayshaw, Chera and Sarong's one of them that popped up and won a Rising Star Award. Do you take credit for that? Is that that's you, easy?
Yeah,
that's just
all time.
Another part of the promotion.
Josh Carr, Factory. No, not at all. Not at all. I think the players
10 zip showdown. Guided Monday to 400. So what next?
No, I'm just there to help these guys, and every player is in charge of their own future and journey. And I guess we're, as coaches, we're there to support that and help them and try and give them the best opportunity to be the best players that they can be. But in the end, I think it's the players that are in charge.
Speaking of other players, I can't just mention the mids. Another bloke who's taken a step forward this year would have to be Big Swag, Big Sean Darcy. What's it like working with, or how's he going with kind of reading the minds of the mids, and is he good to work with as a big fella?
Yeah, he's great to work with. That's the pleasing thing about coaching, I think, is you see the improvement in the individuals. And I've only been here for a short time, but in that short time, Sean's taken massive steps in his career, and obviously especially this year. So I'm not going to claim that. I think his work with Aaron Spider, with Aaron Sandilands, it's giving him some really good direction. But again, I think it goes back to the individual and the work that Sean's put in himself to seek out Spider or to seek out the individuals, the players and teammates around him to improve his game. Has been really impressive.
Paying off. We hate to pump him up because his head's big enough already. But
his nickname's not Swaggy for nothing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He does
I've got to pull him back a bit sometimes. But
don't we all, mate?
You just got to
get in line, mate.
You got to balance it. You got to balance it out.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to fit him on down here. It wouldn't fit his head through this cellar.
True, very true.
It's a small one. All right, we'll move on to a segment we call Quick Hands, Carr. I'm sure you're a long-time viewer of our pod, so you're all across this. But I'll just fire some quick questions out on some quick answers, and we'll fly through this. So we'll fire in. Last time you called Matt?
Oh, would have been 2 days ago.
Last meal on earth, what would it be?
Apricot chicken.
I knew it.
You're starting a new club, and you get to take one defender, one mid, one forward with you from Freo. Who would they be?
One defender. Oh. Luke Ryan.
Mid?
David Mundy.
Beauty. Or
Take that group. Take that group.
All right.
I'll take you too, mate.
Yeah. And a forward.
Ship sail.
Forward. Shooter. Love shooter.
Love shooter. Coffee of choice?
Latte, 1 sugar.
Your first car?
Ford Falcon XF, 5-star mags.
Favourite movie?
Favourite movie? That's a good question. Don't know. At the moment, it's Raya.
Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Most used emoji?
30 times.
Most used emoji?
Thumbs up.
What was the time trial of choice back in the day?
Beep test.
How'd you go? Best result?
High 15s. Or mid 15s.
Dreaming.
Best dressed coach at the club?
Well, Bordy goes all right.
Worst?
Throw JL down there.
He's done it now. Favourite player to watch from another AFL team?
I reckon Zach Butters. Love watching him.
Did you ever don the long sleeves in your AFL career?
I did. I reckon maybe 2 to 3 occasions. Last time I did it was a v Freo at the Wacker. This is how old I am. At the Wacker on a Friday night, and I reckon I got tackled about 4 times from people grabbing my sleeves. So I said I'm never wearing that again. Yeah.
Chilly day in Perth on the Wacker.
Yeah.
Right. I just have to go back. I found out that was apricot chicken was your favourite meal, and I thought that
you found that out.
Yeah.
Who gave you this information?
I can't tell you, but anyway, and I thought that we had so much in common, and then I find out that stuff, apricot chicken, mate, and that is the one food that I hate.
I think, and
I can't go near it. Like mango and apricot chicken, it's just the worst thing possible. Mum used to cook these most amazing meals, and Dad loved it as well. She pulled out this apricot chicken once, so I just looked at it and said, "What is that?" So I'm not eating that.
Yeah.
What's the go there? Because do you cook it yourself or your mum?
You know
used to make
what? It's so disappointing because my kids hate it. And so I like to cook and they will not eat it at all. So that disappoints me. It came from my friends, actually. When I went over to their house when I was like a younger kid, I had it. I was like, how good is this? And then I went back to Mum and said, you've got to start making apricot chicken. And she did. All my birthdays would always make it.
Really?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make it. The mix of flavours just doesn't do it for me. The apricot. But anyway, whatever works for you, mate. But and then another one touched latte with one is probably another thing. I always like to judge people on the coffee orders.
Yeah.
So just one sugar just ruins the taste. Generally, one sugar would ruin
1
the
or a
taste
half.
coffee. Yeah, that's right. I'll give you half.
Yeah.
Anyway, back onto the top dog, Peter Bell. So he's gone from your teammate, captain, and as we touched on before, boss or boss. How do you find that dynamic kind of working from? You said you had a few meetings and stuff, but it's kind of fit in smoothly.
Well, he was captain when I got to the club, so I guess I always saw him as a boss in many ways. There's a bit of history between me and Belly.
Yeah,
Are you going to bring that up, were you?
we might,
I was waiting for.
we might just hold off for now. But
I always respected him and loved him as a player. Matthew went to Aquinas for a couple of years, so Belly was an Aquinas boy. As a young kid coming through, I always knew who Peter Bell was and followed his career. And then I was lucky enough to play with him at Freo. And then, came back. As I said, I always respected him a lot as a captain. So now that he's the general manager of football, that doesn't change.
Yeah, I only really see him in the suit and is normally pretty well dressed, got a nice pair of RMs always on. What was he like in the kind of locker room?
Oh, he's got a very good sense of humour, which you guys probably see
Yeah.
sometimes, but probably not as much as what you would see, when he's a player. So he had a really good balance as a player with his leadership. I guess when to be serious and when to have a joke. But he'd come in some days and you thought he'd had like 30 coffees. He'd pretend he was DJing on the. He was quite funny. He'd start dancing around and
Love to see that.
Enjoyable.
Yeah. All right, well, we touched on a bit of serious stuff, but now we'll take on a bit of a walk down memory lane. 2003, I believe it was, a practice match, Port Adelaide and Freo. Mate, what happened?
Was it 3 or... It probably was 3, actually.
Right, so it was 3.
It was 2 years before I obviously went back. It was always but there was always this rivalry actually between Port and Freo, and I don't know what it was. And all the games would always...
There's the Josh Carr rivalry.
The games would always get it. The games would always get a bit fiery. It just got a bit fired up, and I was a bit stupid.
Mate, what happened? You haven't told us what happened.
Well, I gave him a clip across the ear.
You gave who?
Belly.
The Peter Bell.
Yeah, I got 2 weeks.
Man that you just said you respected, looked up to, knew who he was. You clipped him across the ear.
As soon as I went onto that footy field.
Yeah, it's fair enough. He's just another player.
I reckon Byron Pickett had just knocked out Daniel Haynes in that same game. I think Wiz challenged me to a fight at my brother's house in the same game. So I gave Wiz a little clip in the stomach, and Wiz, he said to me, tomorrow at your brother's house, 1 o'clock, it's on. And I was like, yeah, let's go. And I couldn't stop laughing when he said that. And he was serious. He was serious. He wanted to take me. And then, there's a little scuffle that broke out, and I gave Belly a little clip across the ear. Probably more, I think I split his ear in half, maybe. I'm not sure. But I copped a couple of
weeks.
weeks.
Did he go down a bit soft, do you reckon?
Oh, he was very upset. he was
pretty fiery.
He was very angry. Yeah, I had them all coming after me. Don't worry.
So you got 2 weeks.
Got 2 weeks.
And Belly got
pre-season.
about 12 stitches in the ear.
He got a few stitches, I think.
Shame on you, mate. Poor
then my
Belly.
brother had to wear it, obviously in the change rooms, and after the game, I don't think the players were talking that nicely about me.
So you whacked Belly. There was no retaliation?
Oh, there's a bit of retaliation. I remember Cookie came after me as well, and we all know how tough Cookie is.
Yep.
Anything from Belly?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there,
he came
is there a
back.
possible headbutt involved from Belly?
I can't remember. Was there?
Must have been if you can't remember. I see you hard,
Still
mate.
in cast.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, shame on you, mate. But white line fever. Wouldn't. How would you go against Dave, you reckon, if you had to kind of head to head? He's a hard body. Like I've kind of run into him a few times. So imagine.
I never really thought about it that much, to be honest, like what the consequences would be. And then
generally what happens when you get in trouble.
I'll work that out later.
Yeah. Future Josh can sort that one out.
While we're on the memory lane trip, Launceston, we're going there this week. Our last win, our last and only win, 2006 against St Kilda.
Yeah.
A game famously now known as Sirengate. Run us through your recollections of that
was
one?
good fun.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember it well. With the siren going. And I remember hearing the siren as well, so that made it even worse. And then the stoppage happened, and I think it was Stevie Baker kicked a point but got pushed in the back.
Yeah, got another free kick.
Yeah, and they got another free kick and then won the game. And
again.
I just remember the St Kilda players all marched onto the field and getting stuck because Chris Connolly come onto the field as the coach, come on the field, and they're getting stuck into him. And then I always had this rivalry with Aaron Hamill. At St Kilda, and he didn't play, so he's come on the field, and then I've just gone straight at him. And it was nearly on between me and him as we're standing there, and I think he wanted to go, and it got a bit messy.
And the plane ride home, do you remember that kind of trip in particular?
No, I don't. Fill me in.
Oh, it was a really weird sensation after the game because a lot of us had heard the siren. It was Paul Duffield's first game as well. And yeah, so after the game, immediately got in the rooms and it was like, do we sing the song? No,
right.
probably not. It's a bit weird. And then on the flight home, all the big wigs, Cameron Schwab, Chris Conway at the time, we're all conversing about how they're going to attack the AFL and how we're going to get our points back, which we ended up
and we got
getting
it.
them.
So we got the 4 points in the end. Is all that mattered.
Yeah, we got it.
Yep.
What a mission.
So you heard the siren. Where were you when the siren went?
Yeah, I was around there.
So there was a stoppage.
I reckon it was pre-stoppage.
Yeah.
The siren went, or it might have been at the stoppage.
It was just before.
Yeah, it was just before it.
And you pushed back.
And I remember Shammy carrying on like an idiot. So yeah, and then the siren went, and we're like, oh, okay. Then we all had to get set and ready for the stoppage, and then it played out, and I got a feeling I might have collapsed into the stoppage or something.
Surely
got
not.
fed out, and then Baker had a shot on goal.
Yeah, I think it was Daniel Gilmore who committed the push in the back.
Yep.
You're right.
Yeah.
So as you touched on, you are a competitive bloke, and you're king of the. We did crown you king of the hub last year for ping pong. Table tennis is one of your many skills. Did you play a lot, kind of when you were young with Matt? I played a lot with my brother. I know.
Played a little bit. I'll tell you where I played a lot was when I was coaching North Adelaide in the Sandful, and the CEO Greg Edwards, his name is Shane Edwards' dad. He was the CEO, and I had my captain working at the club also.
Yeah.
So he was the accountant. So we just had epic table tennis games like during the day. We'd come back to the office and we'd be dripping with sweat, and the CEO would walk in. He's like, "Where you guys been?" We're like, "Oh, yeah, just playing table tennis," and we'd play every day, and it just got that competitive. So that's where my table tennis skills.
Table tennis is one of those things. There's a few blokes that pop up and are absolute guns. Is there anyone that you kind of would look at and go, I've never got your measure. I'm never going to beat you.
Well, Haley's by far the best.
He was the biggest threat,
but he just choked.
Yeah.
When it come to the crunch.
Well,
So
you've told us you're a proven formula for success, mate. 10-0, show you.
Do you want me to tell you my table tennis stats as well?
Oh,
Yeah, go.
probably know him, mate.
I got no idea.
Who'd you play in that final, in that tournament?
Oh, someone that wasn't very good.
Was it Andy?
No,
Was it Andy?
Andy didn't get through. It was either Connor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, Haley was the one.
Yeah.
He was the one, and he got done. So
Crumbled under pressure.
left it all open.
Another nothing to do with competitiveness really, but just a different story. Driving across the Nullarbor, something you've done before.
Yeah.
Why'd you do that?
The first
What
time.
compelled you to do that? Actually,
What's that?
why would you do that?
Well, the first time was before you were born, probably. But Ansett was the
was the
airline,
date?
and they went down. They folded as a company.
Yeah.
So I had flights booked at the end of the season to go back to Perth, and then didn't have flights. So Dom Cassisi and we'll both live in together, and we thought, well, let's just do it. We'll drive across the Nullarbor.
Why
So
not? And it worked.
it was a long drive.
Good fun.
It was quite funny. A lot of funny stories.
What car was it?
Don't even know this car, but I had this little Ford Laser. I had this black Ford Laser that I used to drive everywhere, and I had it for about 20 years. I only got rid of it about 5 years ago.
Made the trip.
The trip.
No qualms.
Okay, now after it got me over the border twice,
You bonded with it.
I had this bond with it. It was like this bond. We've done everything together, so I just can't get rid of you until it got ridden off. I crashed into a car in front of me. I'm not looking at the road for some reason.
On your phone.
I can't. Yeah, I'm not sure. And literally, because it wasn't worth very much, they wrote it off.
Oh,
That was it.
had to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Anyway, you mentioned a few characters as well. She said Sham was carrying on that day at Sirengate. Mundy's a funny character. And then you had good characters that you kind of come across. Medhurst would have been one. Were there any good stories that you could see that one bloke would pop out and be like, he was a funny man just to hang around with?
Oh, I think that was probably a lot. You put me on the spot a little bit.
It's a tough one, but
Yeah.
Come on, mate. You said you...
Sham was the easy one that we could just all take the absolute mickey out of all the time. He was just the go-to. Look, I had a lot of teammates that I enjoyed playing together and having fun with. Played with Sean Burgoyne. There's another stat for you. That I loved.
Proven formula just for longevity.
Yeah, throw it out.
Everything. So, yeah. And you would have been pretty lippy, obviously. You said you're pretty lippy on the field, and the locker room would have been the same. Any kind of big pranks you would have pulled back in the day?
Yeah, probably when I was a young guy at Port. And there was, in my year when I got drafted, there was 5 interstate guys that got drafted together.
So we're all pretty close.
So we're all really close.
Yeah.
And then
Live in the same house or anything? Or
the second year we did, and one of them was one of your ex-coaches, Brett Guerra. So I got drafted. He got drafted a year after I did. We used to play pranks on everyone. remove tyres, all that sort of stuff. Good fun.
Anything that sticks out of that's it's probably put it in spot a bit again. But
yeah, well, Andrew Russell, who's the Carlton fitness coach, he was our fitness coach at Port, and the boys used to we got a couple of tons of sand delivered to his driveway. So he came up and woke up in the morning and had 2 ton of sand sitting on his driveway, which his wife didn't like it very much. Didn't like it very much. Yeah.
Just another side note. JL was on Footy IFL 360 last night and said that Barra's possibly going to. Oh, he says all smooth sailing ahead will make it to Monday 400. Would you agree with that?
Well, he's not showing any signs at all of
bizarre, isn't it?
He's playing pretty good football.
I know what do you do in your spare time?
Josh Carr is the assistant coach.
Josh Carr's a proven formula, but what do you actually do in your spare time that just makes your bones
cryogenic chamber?
He's a bit like Benjamin Button, isn't he?
Yeah, it's
just getting better.
Genuinely is. So JL said, can't see him retiring anytime soon. He definitely deserves to go around again in my eyes. The motivation is still there, so I don't see why not. So it's very obviously, I mentioned it because it's topical because we're in his manager's basement, whatever it is, cellar. So
I think Dave paid for it.
Yeah. It's cost me a fortune, that quite. But
it'll
hopefully get me over the line.
He's cost him a fortune, but he's going to get paid back in another couple of years in the contract. So
Hopefully. But anyway.
Good on you, Dave.
Looking back to our game last week at the MCG, Griff, how many games you played at the G?
I think it was second.
Snee and Big Swaggy had another good game. Must be good for you as our midfield coach, obviously, but the progression that those guys are on must be a nice little reward.
Yeah, we touched on Sean a bit earlier, but I guess the season that Andy's been having also has been really pleasing. I guess the consistency week in, week out. So, it's obviously good to be able to see that, but at the same time, it's not disappointed to lose those games.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're the young mids that always get thrown up. Cherub, Brayshaw, Sarong. Who's your favourite?
Don't have a favourite. My favourite's this guy, actually.
Who's your favourite?
From the younger guys?
Yeah, you have to say it.
Yeah, they're all my favourites.
That's weak. I really wanted something there.
And we're off to Tassie this week for the Hawks, Griff.
Yeah, confirmed.
Yeah. How many games at UTAS have you played?
Never been to Tasmania, the state.
Haven't you?
Never.
And
haven't stepped foot.
And you're already off them. You were last week on the pod. You were.
Yeah, don't like the idea of. I don't hate.
Never been there, but
don't hate anything. But the way Moose carries on about his home state and
he's got a lot of love.
The way that he claims that it's better than.
It's a beautiful place.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but
perhaps we could find you a jack jumper and show you that it doesn't look like they're building.
It's just the way people carry on about it and say Moose. Someone like Moose who's just got no idea about anything claims that it's it's the most beautiful beach and picturesque times.
Besides Gidgegannup, where else have you lived?
Mate, how long's a piece of string? I've lived everywhere. Leighton Beach. Well, that's all you need to know. It's the most beautiful place in WA.
It's a great spot. And reared a questionable human in yourself. But this week is also Nat Fyfe's Big 200. Griff is a former housemate and Wi-Fi hoarder of Nat's.
Yep.
How do you view Nat as our leader and his journey to 200 games?
Yeah, well, obviously, as you said, living with him, it's not someone you always like to pump up, but it's hard not to. 200 games is about a quarter of what you're going to play, but still, one of the best, if not the best, on-field leader probably you can see across the game, what he can do and how he wills himself in the contest. So, I don't like pumping him up too much, but.
No, you just have it. It's good.
I'm going to have to.
He's won 2 Brownlows.
Yeah,
so
he's done it right.
He's honestly, he's done it all. And always say it's a privilege to play with the greats. And I hate to pump you up, but you're one of them. But Fyfe is the other one. Yeah, 2 Brownlows. So you don't have any of them. So it's
sucks.
It's always good.
One this year.
And Joshy, from an outsider's perspective, and then coming in and trying to manipulate Nat into your system, how's that journey been?
Yeah, look, I didn't get to, appreciate how good he was until I have come here and coached. I coached against him in my days at Port, and obviously respected that he was a really good player, but never got a really good understanding of how good he was until I've come here. To his ability just to make a ball his, and how competitive he is. He's been really impressive.
Yeah, he's an absolute bull at the contest, isn't he? And probably resulted in some of his shoulder issues and broken legs and have gone through all of that and to made 200 is a huge achievement, and to his individual accolades in the game are almost endless, aren't they? So
We're on a bit of a Nat theme here, but you've obviously played the most with him
yeah,
out of anyone in the world. Is there a good kind of connection you've kind of got?
yeah. Well,
Nat?
we understand. As you said, we've played probably about 200 games together, so we understand each other's games and pretty well. Don't need much more than a wink and a nod on most occasions to kind of understand the connection between what the other guy wants to do or what we're doing at a time. So, and he's a really deep thinker, so he understands the game and his game and our system really well. So he's a very good sounding board for all of us, I think.
I might be sounding, I'm out of depth here because I don't know how centre stoppage works, but what if like you want to get your hands on it, and so does the dual Brownlow medalist kind of wants to get his hands on it. How do you kind of take a step backwards, just a wink and nod, say, give me this one? But what if he winks back and goes, give me this one?
No, it's normally, Nat, JL wants you to go forward, mate.
Fair enough.
I think it's from my point of view, it's been really impressive is like their understanding. You know, like I can see how much Nathan respects David and his opinion, and I guess vice versa as well. But they've got a great understanding of what needs to happen at any given time and who's, I guess, the one that can impact around. And sometimes it's not either of them. Sometimes it's one of the other players, but they have a great understanding.
And so we haven't actually asked him yet, so I'm not sure we should bring this up, but we're going to start the crowdfunding to pay for Nat's appearance fee to hopefully get on the pod next week. So fingers crossed, touch wood, that goes well. I'm going to ask him tonight. So
Good luck,
very nervous.
mate. Good luck. good luck to you.
Why don't you ask him?
Mate, he'd do the same thing that Choco Williams did and laugh in my face and probably swear at me. Mate,
Yeah, fair.
All right, well, on that note, I reckon that wraps up another great pod this week, Griff. Well done, mate. Thank you, Carr. How did you
Thanks,
feel?
guys. Yeah, loved it. Great having a chat with you too.
It was great to have you on the Old Bull Young Buck, #1 pod in Australia. We're off. Heading to Tassie this week. Get a good win and we'll be back in Perth for our next pod and home game next week. So tune in. Thank you.
Cheers, like, subscribe.